Okay, I want to spend just a few minutes here today talking with Marcus and Andy. And specifically, we're going to tackle two questions, but they're kind of tied into one idea. In a lot of churches, I'm speaking specifically as a guy that runs a local church, as a senior pastor, but it's not just churches, it's businesses too. We have this weird, it's like there's all these millennials and they're all moving into the, to the world. And you guys kind of sit on that even like young side of all that. But people that are graduating out of college, getting ready to come into the work world, you guys are now just finished your master's last year and fully in the work world and
Praise
our
God.
work world.
Yeah.
School is done. And the reality is there is this weird void in a lot of organizations. So it feels like there are a few organizations that a whole bunch of young people are migrating to, or they're breaking off and doing their own thing. But there's a lot of organizations and churches too. I mean, the West is just littered with churches all across the nation that have void of people your age. So let me ask you, and it's not just true of churches, I mean, it's businesses as a whole. They're all either migrating to a few different ones, like the Googles of the world or whatever, or a few different churches too, or they're just doing their own thing completely, but they're not going back to those. So here's the question that I have, and I'm speaking specifically to the church, but it does include businesses as a whole. What is it from an organizational perspective or a church perspective that attracts young adults to come and be there, and what is it that would help them stay in it? So what would attract them to actually come, and what is it that would help them stay in an organization?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is just even the phrase authenticity over production. I guess is one way to say it, that people our age, maybe earlier in the 1990s or the early 2000s, people who are our age then, the lights, the camera, the professionalism is so attractive, and the kind of like build it and they'll come attitude. And I think one thing that's changed in our generation, for us as we get older, is we just really want to see the raw, real thing. We aren't fooled by putting on a massive show, and not just in a church, like you said, or a business. And I think people are not only attracted to real, raw, leadership, but also the way that the service or the product is put out. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to jump in on any of that, but.
I think it's really good. I think the old way of, you build it, they'll come, worked for a while. And I think people our age would mainly say, you build it, I won't come. You come find me, I will come. And I think it's more, I want to be sought out, which can bleed into some entitlement and some laziness on our part. So it's not all okay. But I think the primary thing that comes to my mind is people our age would, in my opinion, say, I want to know that I am more valuable than what I do and what I can do for you. So one thing is in our churches, and I don't know how this totally relates to the business world, but in our churches, what we've done is we've communicated, I think accidentally at times almost, by our programming and the way churches are structured and set up, is kind of like from 0 to 18, we care a ton about you. We have all the programming in the world. We have, children's stuff, family blueprints, youth events, conferences. It just goes down the list. And then by the time you're 18 and you go off to college, it's kind of a, commissioning Sunday. We bless you in the name of Jesus to go out into the world and to change it all and to be awesome. And then there's this weird 4 or 5 year window where it's like, am I cared about? Is the church, still interested in me? Do they love me? But then when you graduate and you have a degree and you can make money and tithe and give and all of that kind of stuff, all of a sudden it feels like everybody wants me back. And do they want me back because of who I am or because what I can do for the church and how I can further their mission and all of this kind of stuff?
Or can I finally tithe now?
I mean, there's money for me to give or whatever the case is. And I think we need to and want to know that we matter to the Lord and to other Christians and to other people for who we are more than just what we can do for them.
So one of the things that, and even going back to those ideas just a minute ago, I like those words, so authentic. Now the reality is everybody's trying to pin down what that word means. What does authentic mean? And then the second thing that comes to my mind too is that the phrase that you said, if we build it, you will come. So if I build this amazing organization and it's really cool and we got ping pong tables in the break room and video games, and then they'll come.
Right.
But I think what I'm learning, and a lot of this is even working with you all and a lot of the other people, I mean the Alyssa's, other young people that are on the team, it's not so much a we build a perfect organization, you can come. It sounds like, and it feels like, at least to me, it's not a we build it, you come. It's a we build it, and we get all ownership.
Yeah.
So it's almost like what it feels like is the authenticity, at least for me as a leader, is me saying, hey, what we have isn't done, and what we have isn't built. But I would love for you to come along as we figure this out together. Yeah. And so it almost like changes the hierarchy from like this like guy up top that's in his mysterious ivory tower, and he just like sprinkles down job descriptions that everybody has to obey, to like this kind of messier lateral, let's figure it out together. And it is difficult because like I think when we do graduate people, and I felt this too, by the way, my generation definitely felt this as well. I'm 40. But it is like hey, we're so proud of you. We want you to go change the world.
Right.
Well, so we had an army of churches and organizations, whatever, that are saying, go change the world. The world they're supposed to change is the world they just left. So it's almost like we're graduating these young people saying, go change the world, but don't mess with my music. Don't mess with my doors. Don't mess with my car, but don't go change the world. Well, what happened in the West is they did send everybody out to go change the world, and they left the West behind. And very few organizations are like, hey, we're the world that you can come work on and change.
Right.
And so I think it's that posture of an organization saying, we want you to have voice. We do admit that we're messy, and we do want you to join us as we figure this out. Like there's an ownership thing that's even more attractive than just money and flash and ping pong tables in a break room or whatever. I don't know, thoughts, ideas, keep going.
I mean, it's just really interesting. I think going back to maybe even personality types, I think is important to address, because not everybody in the church world or the business world is a personality that's like, give me something with massive autonomy and I just want to build. There's some people who are like, just give me a few responsibilities, show me what I'm supposed to do 9 to 5, and that is peace for me. But for myself or Marcus, some of us other people in the church world, we'd say, are maybe more apostolically bent to want to go create and run things with freedom. That is such a blessing to step into an organization where that's the case, like Trinity, and that helps people like us thrive, where we're not being micromanaged, but there's potential being called out in us. And you end up getting even more work and more efficiency out of your leaders because you're saying, let's just activate the gifts that you have and let you run. But just to recognize that that's fearful for a lot of people, right? That's like terrifying to say. So I think you got to know the personalities. And not everybody in our generation is wired that way, especially in the church. So
I know on that note too, like a high value for previous generations in a lot of ways was security, even financially. I would even say that some of that is called wisdom, which maybe our generation is lacking now. But
we don't have any of that.
That's probably true.
What is really interesting is that people our age are actually strangely okay with racking up even college debt, and then saying, I'm gonna go adventure for 3 years, and then maybe I'll get a job and settle down, and maybe get married and all of that kind of stuff.
To find myself. In that.
But security is not the value that it used to be. And I think even organizations saying, come and do this way, and we'll give you this check, that was security before. But that is not a value as much anymore for people. I would even say our age primarily. Personality does play into it, but even as a whole, I think people want to have a voice our age. People want to be able to speak into things, change things. And so it's less, I want to be secure financially or for my future. It's more, I want to be able to, play a role in this team or play a role in this organization that actually matters and actually makes a difference. And that's where we feel like we have even purpose in it too. So
that's good. Okay, so jumping off what you said here, I like that idea. I do feel like organizations as a whole, we did raise people up, and even like as a youth pastor, all those years of doing youth ministry, you guys were my teens, in a sense, like age-wise, you were my teens, and we send you out and we say, go be brave, but then we send you into churches, and the posture of the church's hearts or some of these organizations' hearts isn't courage, go take the hill. The posture of the organization heart is fear and scarcity. And so there's this natural rub that just doesn't come into play. And I do think it's not all wrong. Like fear and scarcity is a wrong posture.
Sure.
But wisdom can play into that. Like wisdom to just say, well, let's think about the cost of these decisions. And then I think even for leaders, the other thing that pops in my head is, if I'm going to create space for you all to lead, what I need is for you all to be faithful. So like almost like what I call a baby mama or whatever, a baby daddy or whatever it is, like when somebody has a kid and then the guy disappears. So it's like, I want to have everything that I can have with this woman, but as soon as responsibility shows up, I'm off to the next thing. And so like from a business perspective to the young leaders, it's like, we want you to have all this authority, but if you get authority, we also need you to bear responsibility. So it's like, man, Andy or Marcus, if you guys start a ministry, you can't just have a baby. Like you got to be dad. You can't just bail on us and be dad. And so I think with the organizations, the other side of it is some of these organizations are like, man, we've been burnt. We let some of these guys come in and then we give them free range. They spend a ton of money. They launch some new ministry and then they tear the family apart one way or another. So somehow all those pieces have to come into play. There's got to be trust on an organization side, and there's got to be like faithfulness on the other side too. Like they all those things have to come together. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's good.
I think it's kind of, I don't know, an awesome way to say it, but just believing in the we over I for our generation is so important, because when we step into a new organization or a church, we're always excited about, well, here's my idea, what I want to launch here. And our generation and people coming out of our age group of ministry potential too, it's like you can accidentally use the church for your own personal ambitious goal. And I think the Lord, he just has to break our hearts to have what you always talk about, Mike, just this humble heart posture to say, I am not building my own thing, but I'm building what we are all trying to create. And I think when that culture is developed, the likelihood of people our age coming and burning an organization goes way down, because we've found identity in the greater idea and culture of what you're trying to build. But if that culture is not clear, then I think everybody does kind of end up building their own thing and not parenting, not bearing responsibility, because there's no buy-in.
And I think even with you two, one of the things with residents and interns that we've had come through here over the years that I've worked with you before moving here, I think one of the main things that I look for in a leader is, I love youth, I love excitement, I love creativity, but what I'm really looking for is, do they actually love the bride of Christ? Like, do they actually love the bride of Christ? Because I think there are some people that are in ministry because they're still they study for ministry because they're still wrestling through their own theology. That's the driver. It's not really the call. It's like, I got to solve my own problems. And I think some people enter into ministry and the real driver behind it is like pride and fame. You know, and so when I come across people where I don't taste pride and fame, and I don't taste like just, you know, they're called to ministry being, you know, I got to solve my own problems, I got all these own. Though those things can be there and need to be wrestled with, they're in all of us. But like the primary driver being, I actually love the bride of Christ. When I come into a church, I really do care about these people. Birth to the little old lady sitting on the front row that can't stand that rap song. She still matters to Jesus.
She's upset about Kanye. So.
She's upset about Kanye. We still love her, for sure. That's good. I don't know, other thoughts, other ideas? You talked about culture. I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that with all of it, I would say there's this weird avenue of, there's so much that we as young people want older leaders to understand about us, but there's so much that we as young leaders and even young people need that we're unaware that we need. And we need older leaders to come alongside of us and disciple us and actually help us to understand the value in parenting or in responsibility. And I think literal parenting, but also the metaphorical, figurative, because we love the idea of, I want to go start this, I want to do this, but once it gets hard or once the responsibility starts to come in, it's like, I don't want to get down in the weeds of that. I don't want to actually take care of it. I just want to launch it and have fun and do, you know, maybe the not totally irresponsible things, but I want to do the fun parts. I'll show up for the fun, and when it gets hard, I'll leave. And we need other leaders coming in, especially in the church, saying, if you don't show up for the parts that might seem a little less flashy, like loving the people
Right.
when it gets difficult, then I think I'm even nervous for the next 20 years of
Right.
if that's our attitude now as, 23, 24-year-olds.
Yeah.
When your generation's gone,
Right.
and we don't love the people, like what happens?
gonna
We
happen?
need to be taught to love the people and to love the bride of Christ desperately. We need
Dude,
that.
that's
Our
good.
generation needs
Well,
that.
and can I pop in just
Go.
another thing on top of that is this is really tricky and really interesting. And I think going through college, different
Right.
Christian universities at times, this is not their intention, but accidentally they can teach you while talking through all the dysfunctions of the American church. I mean, you hear that in every class. This is what's wrong with the American church and we need to fix it. This is what's wrong with youth ministry. We need to fix it. And you can come out of college. I know for me, I had to battle through this bitter attitude towards the American bride of Christ.
Before you even got there.
Yeah, before you even knew. And you don't even know
Yeah.
why. You're just like, because you're being told over and over, this is what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
So, and I think for every story we hear of what's wrong with it, we need to hear two stories of these are celebration, awesome things that God is doing in the American
Dude, we got to
church.
pause for a second and just say, like, professors, teachers, guys that are at Christian universities, for the love of Pete, please teach the kids to love the bride of Christ, and don't just talk about everything that's wrong with the church.
Yeah.
Because you end up graduating brilliant, bitter preachers.
Yeah.
Before they ever step foot in the doors of the church.
Yeah.
Like, the bride of Christ is beautiful. And I mean, like, she's got her messy things, but that's why we have each other to help grow through that. That's good.
It is good.
That's really, really good. Man, I don't know. And I wonder too, even as I kind of think through some of this stuff, as a leader, I've got to provide space for that. But you can't learn the weight of these things until you fail. Like, I really think that's true. So it's like, even as an organization, I got to provide enough leeway for you to get involved in things and have some things work and have some things not work. Because in the not work is when you really feel that ownership.
Yeah.
But here's what hit me too when you were talking, Marcus. We've attached a word that has really become an excuse to be unfaithful. And the word is apostolic. So what I hear with young adults is, oh, I'm just apostolic.
Yeah.
And what they mean by that is, I want to start something, I want money, I want freedom, I want to start something, but I don't want any long-term responsibility with it.
Yeah.
And so
You're right.
the original idea of apostolic is I'm building it for that faithful person. Like,
Right.
that's just, the handoff is just as important.
Right.
But what has accidentally happened is we've attached apostolic to just me be famous.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like want to rewind and take the word apostolic and go, you need to bear the weight that Paul bore with his churches.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't just
stuck it
disappear from him. Like, he wrote the letters we have are him
Yeah.
trying to stay involved and continually
keep
fix
going
and
back.
keep it going
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. It's
beautiful.
Apostolic doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's not a free get out of jail card. I don't have to be faithful now. I can go make a baby and disappear.
Yeah.
Somebody else has to raise it. That's your responsibility.
What's weird is that, and I mean this, it's not a new problem. It goes all the way back to Christ and his disciples, but our generation 100% views like whoever's at the top of the food chain has it the best. Like whoever's the biggest leader, the CEO, whatever, the more autonomy I have, the better shape I'm in.
Right.
And what I feel like even I've been learning in my first, little bit in ministry here is it's actually the exact opposite. And that's the point that Jesus was trying to make, even to his disciples, when they're saying, who's the greatest, all this stuff, that the higher up you go in leadership, you should actually have more responsibility to take care of the people
That's right.
that you're shepherding and to take care of the people that are even following you on your own team.
That's right.
And I don't know, I just think that the idea that so many of us even, kind of talking about the preachers coming out of college or coming out of Bible school or whatever the case is, it's what can everyone else do for me and exalt my platform and make me better, make me more famous, instead of saying, how can I make sure the people around me, that their feet are as clean as possible? How can I make sure that the bride of Christ is fully prepared for Jesus to return? And that, honestly, that is not the motivator for many of us coming out of college, and it really needs to be.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word. Okay, so like, if you could just kind of pin down like final thoughts, and I want to do final thoughts two ways. One of them would be like final thoughts to an organization. So let's say somebody's going to watch this and they represent the 90% of churches that are out there that are in need of young leadership who's there and engaged and cares. What would you say to those senior pastors, to those board members, to those people that attend that church? And then what would you say to young leaders that are in school getting ready to go into the work world?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So speaking into both those worlds.
Yeah.
So first of all, what would you say to, we'll start with the one that might be a little harder. What would you say, at least from your perspective, to the leaders out there right now, lay leaders leading the church, senior pastors, board members, even those in an organization where they need young leaders to be present and engaged? What would you say to them?
Yeah.
What do you think?
First thing that comes to my mind is just, as much as possible, let young people, young leaders know you care about them and who they are, and the fact that they are a loved child of God. I know it sounds so cliche. I know it's like, easy answer, but that they actually are a beautiful child of God, and that you see them for who they are more than just what they do, what they can do for your church, what they can do for your business. All of that stuff matters. It's all important. Are you good at what you do? That matters.
Right.
But if you show me or teach me or act like you care about that and value that more than you care about who I am before Christ, I'll sniff it out, I'll notice, and I'll be like, I don't want to be a part of it. So man, show how much you care about young leaders, young people. Would be the prime
person over product.
Yes, 100%.
Person over product.
100%.
You want to value the person over the product, and they can feel that.
And they'll become a better product when they know they're cared about as a person. That's the truth.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I would just say to the leaders, especially like you said, senior leaders, lay leaders, as you look at our generation, my heart cry is, I know the common attitude is to have this doom and gloom aspect of like, can't believe where this country's heading, can't believe where church is heading. I mean, look at all the Barna statistics. I mean, we're a sinking ship, right? I mean, that's what we talk about, right? But really, it's an opportunity for harvest greater than any time in history. And if you don't have that positive, the glass is half full aspect, then the young people won't either. And it starts with the leaders. It starts with the senior leaders saying, this is an opportunity for harvest.
That's right.
And the young people will hop on and say, you're right. There's more people to be saved than ever. And that's what Jesus told his disciples, right? I mean, he said the workers are few, but the harvest is plentiful. So that would be my heart cry.
So posture the organization being one of, there's potential, instead of hide in a cave, disappear, fear and scarcity, the organization needs to take the posture of, look at all this opportunity.
And we want to be led more than you think. We want to be led more than
our
you
pride
think.
might not show that, but yes.
But we want to be led well.
That's good. I like that. Okay, so now shifting gears and thinking, okay, so maybe somebody's going to watch this that's sitting, at the university, or like a high school student that feels called to ministry or whatever it is, like somebody that isn't in the work world, or we're kind of more specific to the church, but isn't in the church yet. What would you say to them before they step into the organization? Just like words of advice.
I mean, I would say you're stepping into ministry not to build leadership, but to serve. That would be the main thing from my heart. Is my heart and my prayer for you would be, love Jesus way more than you like doing ministry. And if that's the case, if you have an intimate, growing, close relationship with Christ, then the things like serving the grandma in the back pew or cleaning up after someone else and you get no credit, there's joy in that because you're just serving Christ. You're not trying to build a platform. You're not trying to be an awesome leader by telling as many people what to do. You're just here to serve. You're here to wash feet. And I think servant leadership, if that's not properly understood, ministry will be miserable for you. It will be backwards for the rest of your life.
For me, I would say first thing is you cannot love the groom and hate the bride. We live in a really weird time in our church where the name of Jesus is weirdly popular and loving the church is so unpopular. So it's like, man, Jesus this, Jesus that, it's awesome. Like, listen to my sermon. And then it's like, you got to go love people. I don't know about that. That doesn't work. If you don't love the bride, you are saying, I don't love the groom. So if you do not love the old lady in your church and you do not care about the children's ministry in your church, you are saying, without words, I don't actually love Jesus as much as I'm saying that I do. The other thing, and I don't know, this could sound really mean, but I think that people our age need to hear it, is that you are not God's gift to your church or to the world just as yourself.
Right.
You're not. We all think that we are. It's like, I'm the next,
Amazing
Furtick
whatever.
or what. I mean, you just, I'm the next Andy Stanley, or I'm the next this.
Right.
God has gifted me for, and we are collectively the hope of the world. We are the light of the world, the salt of the earth, collectively as the church. But you individually cannot bear the weight of being God's next gift to, it's just view yourself in the right perspective, that you're just an awesome player in this big machine that is centuries older than we are.
Right.
And in my opinion, that takes a huge weight off of your shoulders.
It does.
You do not have to change the world. You just have to continue to love those people and remind them that Christ already changed the world. And it's like, we don't bear the weight of changing everything.
Right.
We just share the message that things have been changed. So
man, I think in my mind, like, how much different the church would be. And I don't mean like just the building, but like the capital C greater movement of the church would be if they just assumed from the academic side a posture of love and grace towards the church, back towards the church, loving the bride, from leadership, loving the bride. Like, I mean, just that posture of love, it just changes everything.
It does.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy that. Well, hopefully there's some stuff there, man, as we talk about. These are things that we even wrestle with as we're continuing to figure out
100%.
what it looks like to continue to leave and lead forward in this crazy climate. But man, God's been doing great things through the ministries you guys have been a part of.
It's been awesome. Praise the Lord. Yeah.
We're excited about it all. Well, hope you guys have a great day, and thanks again.
For sure.
See ya.
See ya.